Hiya guys, and welcome back to Ades Workshop. Well, the reveal of the new project is, and most of you guessed correctly, going to be a ball turning attachment. Now, I'm going to put a bit of a twist on this one because the base plate, I'm going to put quite a large base plate on it. And as most of you have seen with my milling slide, I use the base plate for various different setups, and I've sort of drilled more holes and made it more functional along the way. So I'm going to put quite a large base plate on this ball turner, strictly for the purpose of having more space on it to adapt it for other things. Now, the other things particularly I've got in mind, one is going to be a rear mounted tool post, and probably be used most of the time, and you'll probably see it a lot in the future as I go forward and do these further improvements to it, is going to be a compound replacement block, so that I can use the lathe without a compound slide on it. So it'll basically be a block on the base plate which replicates the thread that the quick change tool post sits on, and it'll sit directly on there, the quick change tool post, and I'll be able to machine with a lot more rigidity, having removed the compound slide for general work. I mean, obviously times will come when I need to have the compound slide in place, but generally speaking, you know, you wouldn't use it unless you were turning an angle or doing something like that. So that's why I'm putting a great big base plate on it. So I'll talk you through and show you how I'm going to go about making that. So obviously this is the surface that I'm working from, and the first piece of steel that I showed, it's a bit rusty, but obviously that'll all be cleaned up and machined, is this piece here. Now it is too long, as you can see it sticks out the back, so I'm going to cut that down to length first. I'll probably try and get it the same size as the cross slide, and it's a little bit narrower, but I think I'll probably machine it so that it sits flush on the front edge, or maybe just overhanging slightly. So what it's going to need to start with is a pair of holes, I believe, or from memory, they're 40mm apart and they're M5s. It's got a 6mm dowel in the centre, so I'm going to have to set up the correct distance from here and drill those 3 holes. And then once I've done that, I can square it up and spot that hole back up onto the plate. And then we're going to have 3 M5s countersunk into the top of this plate to hold it down solidly. What I might do is get some longer bolts, put this plate on some parallels and see if it's feasible to be able to machine right across this face with my fly cutter when I've done it. But I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to fit in that distance, and if I can't, not a great problem, because I am going to set it up nice and square, and I can file this edge nice and tidy and all around the outsides anyway. So my first thing is to mark out and drill the 1, 2, 3, 4 holes, so I've got the plate. And obviously I'll polish all this rust off, so I'm not working with a messy piece of steel. So just get the rust off to start with. I've got a nice aggressive piece of Scotch-Brite here. I'll just work my way around the corners getting the rust off before I even think about showing it to a file, because this horrible rusty powder will play havoc with decent files. Oh yeah, this side's the worst of the lot. Oh, I think perhaps I ought to break that edge first, stop it ripping my Scotch-Brite to bits. Toolbox with the files in used to be over here. Since I've had a reshuffle, I keep going over there to grab a file, but it's now in the other toolbox. Yeah, nasty edge on there. Just get that off, and you can see it's ripping my Scotch-Brite up. That's better. This piece of steel's been sat on the shelf for months, I suppose, maybe 12 months. It's the other half of the chunk of steel that I bought to make the other base plate. So yeah, it's the same stuff. Or is it? I believe it is. I might be wrong there. Actually thinking on it, I think I bought the other piece of steel was a piece of gauge plate, but I haven't got any gauge plate. Anyway, you don't want to see me de-rusting. I'll bring you back when I'm all done. only changed my mind once. All I've done is filed and cleaned this plate up. Where I said I was going to cut it off at the length of the slide, as you can see, the dovetails on the slideway stick out the back when I'm sort of this far back. So my thinking is, if I leave that the full length it is now, at least it'll give a bit of protection of swarf from that area at the back there when I am this far out. So, and yeah, I mean, I might find that I need that extra bit, and it's not going to interfere at the back here, because as you all know, I've moved my rear guard well back out of the way. So yeah, I won't have any problems with it hitting the rear guard as it might have done, you know, in its original guise. So yeah, I'm going to leave the end of that, leave this piece of plate full length. Now that end is a sawn cut, but this end is fairly square, and I've just filed it across and checked it with a square, and it is, yeah, it's quite nice. So I can move straight on without cutting the end off to machining the holes that I need. A few people have asked me in the past how I made the plate that my milling slide sits on, you know, the subplate. So I'll show a bit of the detail when I'm making this one, and that'll cover, you know, the questions that I've been asked on that one as well. So anyway, I want the plate to come flush on the end here, and I know it's a 6mm dowel pin in the centre of there. 32.6 that's measuring. So if I take 3mm off, I'll be 29.6. So the distance up to my 3 holes going to be 29.6. Now the distance across from the front face is measuring 42.6. So that's going to be 39.6 from the edge to the centre of the pin. I think I'll make it 40mm. Just keep the figure nice and round. So that distance there is going to be 40. Now we've got the centres either side of that dowel pin in the middle there. Now I've just had a quick crack at this, and it's a very strange measurement. If I measure it up, I think I did it 22mm last time, and it looks around 22mm, so 11mm offset either side, which I find strange. Yeah, I mean, it's not an imperial size, but yeah, it's 11mm either side. So anyway, I know from when I drill that centre hole, I got to step 11mm either side of that, so 11 and 11. So I can now put my plate up. I'll just put a black line on there. So I'll work off one datum edge, which I'm going to call this front edge here, closest to the chuck. Just check my calipers, yeah, they're all right. So my centre line is going to be, we said 40mm back from the datum edge. Again, I use these calipers as a scribe. I wouldn't do it with a decent set. These are my workshop calipers. So there's 40. 40 plus 11 is going to be 51 the other way. Just to put a little line on. I'm not digging in with them, but 51. And then 40 less 11 is going to be 29. And we are 28.99. All measured from the same side. Now my distance from this edge was 29.6. Very strange figures that they're not round numbers, I know, but so there's my first set. When I drilled this hole in the bed up here for the third hole to hold the plate down, it is on the centre line. Let me just double check that. 40mm I've done that. Well, 39.6 it was. And yeah, it is on the centre line. So I'm going to draw a line somewhere appropriate, up there somewhere. 40mm in. There we are, 39.99. I think I can live with that. Where's it going to be? Somewhere around here. So 39.99. And its distance in, again I'll use the same datum, from the outside edge 123.1. That's a strange figure, but that's what it is. So again, from the datum edge, wasn't a very good shot with my black marker, but I've now got the cross parts for the set of holes. So I'll very carefully center punch these holes now, and then I will drill them out. These ones are going to be they're M5 screws, so they're going to be 5.1 diameter, and the middle one I'm going to drill and ream 6mm. I do have a tiny center punch which I ground up many years ago. It was actually a punch, but out of a press tool. Whoops. But yeah, I don't know whether I can focus you in now. But that is, it's about 1mm diameter on the end, maybe 1.5. And it's on a 4mm punch blank, a high-speed steel punch blank out of a press tool. And it's got a ground central point. And yeah, I mean, I have got an eye loop, but if I lift my glasses up to the good bit at the bottom in my varifocals, I can see the crosshairs there quite well, and I can center pop it smack on. And I'll do that for all four, and then get a larger center pop. So I don't go mad. I got a little 4-ounce hammer. I won't do it on the carriage of my machine, but I'll just get under the light and I'll center pop them. So I've been center punched the holes, just very carefully with a center drill, picking up on the center punch and giving myself a little starter. My drill's probably going a bit slow for this, oh, and my hand is in the way. My drill's going a bit slow for this, but it's such a pain in the rear end to change the speeds on it, or quickly, that I sort of leave it on this speed and it pretty much does me, unless I got a much larger drill or something tiny. So yeah, I know I'm going too slow for this center drill, that's why I'm taking it very gently indeed. Anyway, you get the picture. A little 2.5mm center drill in there first. That's that done. I've done that one as well. So I decided on 5.2mm for the holes for the 5mm screws. And before I drill, let me just check those screws are 5mm. Yeah, double check myself. Didn't want to put a 5.2 hole in where a 4mm screw goes, but yeah, on reflection it's a 4mm Allen key, it's a 5mm screw. But I've double checked myself. Right, so just need to find my cutting compound. There it is. So we'll have a little bit on everyone. And I'm going to drill them out 5.2mm. I brought the drill around the other side so my hand doesn't get in the way so much now. It would be good practice to clamp down the workpiece. In fact, I can see my table deflected here. I need to put my support underneath. In fact, I think I'll do that now. Yeah, as I was saying, it'd be good practice to clamp down the workpiece generally. But to be honest, there's that little power in this drill. If it goes to jam or lock up, I stop the chuck before it can possibly pull my hand, as it were. So yeah, but if you know, if you're on a pillar drill and it's got a bit of oomph to it and you're drilling a hole, it can snatch, break through, and you know you're going to hurt yourself. So just touch on and clamp it. Use a drill press vise, something like that. But for this little piece of equipment, I have a lot more power than the machine has. So yeah, before we get the health and safety police onto me, yeah, it's not needed for this. Just break through the 3 holes. I'll probably put something like a 5.9 in the middle one and then put a 6mm reamer through. And I do have a 6mm reamer that'll fit in this drill chuck. I once called it, now I got to be careful, a chucking reamer. it has a straight shank on it as opposed to like a Morse taper or what have you, and it's designed to go in a drill chuck, as opposed to, you know, like a tap wrench or a Morse taper. So yeah, I'll put the reamer through as the last job after I've opened the centre hole up to 5.8, 5.9 mil, something like that. That's better now with the support under the table. You can probably see the table deflecting before. Let's just have that bit of swarf out of the way. The back of my hands are, after all these years doing this sort of thing, like leather, but you know, you do get scratches and cuts, so it's always best to keep the swarf out of the way. That drill's cutting beautifully. Now, I don't have a specific tool for counterboring for the cap heads on an M5, but what I tend to do, if I can just get my calipers, what I tend to do is, the diameter of the head on these is 8.3. I have got an 8.5 drill, and I've also got an 8.5 drill that I've ground a flat bottom on. So what I do is start them off with an 8.5 until the drill has entered the hole, you know, maybe got a mil or so below surface, and I'll do that on all three of them that need counter sinking, or counter boring I should say, and then I'll change over to the flat bottom and insert the end of the flat bottom drill into the pre-drilled 8.5 hole, and then just gently bottom them out and just check the screws against the top surface to get the depth correct. Depth stop on this little machine is absolute, well, let's say it hasn't got a depth stop. I think that's probably the better way to describe it. So yeah, I'll just tinker with it, taking a little bit of the time until I get to the depth that I want. So I'll do that next, and then I'll think about the reaming of the 6mm hole. So we'll take that 5.2 out. Well, I tell you what, while I'm in a drill mood, I'll put the 5.8, 5.9 in that centre one now. So in with the 5.9. Okay. I should use a brush for that really, but it's very fine. And let me see if I can find my reamer. So here it is. It's a 6mm reamer with a straight shank. Probably going to have to drop my table down a bit. And again, I should be slowing the speed down on this. That's okay. I should be slowing the speed down on this, but for exactly the same reason. It takes so long just for one hole. And I'm only taking a very small bit out of it. There we go, so that should be good fit for a 6mm dowel now. And I know the actual dowel on the cross slide in the little swivel plate is actually measures up about 5.95, so that will fit in there quite nicely. And I'll put a little sink on both sides of all these holes. And in fact, I think at this stage, I think I'll flip the plate around, and because these have all burred up and it's not sitting perfectly flat, I'll just put a little sink on the back of those. Let me just see. A little one there should do for what I want. Have I got to bring the table up? Probably get away with that. Let's see. That's okay. Same on that one. Just a little countersink on there, and I'll do the same on the 6mm there. I may have burred it over by doing that. We'll see. If I have, then I'll just pop the reamer back through by hand. So now to countersink the 3 holes for the M5 cap heads. So I've just set up the 8.5, the standard drill, and I'm just going to go until I got like a mil or 2 of parallel below the surface. So Yeah, something like that. And again with this one, okay. So now I'm going to swap this drill over for a flat bottom drill. I don't know whether you can pick that up, but it's a drill that I've ground with a flat bottom. Pretty simple to do, but yeah, I'm not going to go into grinding flat bottom drills now, but yeah, it's straightforward enough. And of course the problem you've got, because it is a flat bottom, is that it hasn't got a taper on the end to pick up on the centre of a hole. Hence why, or pick up on the centre of a hole, as it were. So obviously I have to locate it very carefully in the hole that I've already drilled to start it. But that parallel portion of the hole I've already drilled will keep it centralised into the hole. So I shall show. I'll just carefully line it up, drop into the same hole, and that will flat bottom the hole. So using my bolt as a gauge, I can see I need to go probably another millimetre. So I'll just give it another little tickle. That's still a little bit proud. Bit more. I've been thinking about doing various modifications on my little drill press here. Maybe it'll be a future project, put a DRO on the quill of this perhaps, or there's several things I could do. Fit a good stop on it. I'd say I'm about 10 thou below the surface there. I'm going to go another little cut and call that one done. So I'll just repeat the operation for these two. Just taking a few scratches out. Yeah, keep going. Dirt in the hole. That's about flush. That's a tiny bit below surface. I'd like to go a bit more than that. And get on the other one. Half mil above. Whoop. That's, as you saw, I missed the hole there and it jiggled about. That's because it hasn't got a V on the end, so I should be, I was getting carried away. I should be a little bit more careful when I'm picking up the hole. So yeah, that's just below. I think that'll do me, just below the surface. Okay, so a countersink on the top of those now, just to finish off proceedings and tidy up. Don't want sharp edges and burrs, things like that. Let's get that drill out. Slightly larger countersinker this time, I think. I think I got enough travel. There we are. Nice neat job on my fixing holes. So let me just double check. As you can see, the little M5 bolts, they are below surface by about well, now it's a lot below surface because I threw it on the floor, but they are below surface by about, yeah, probably 0.5 to 0.7 mil perhaps. There we are. So now the proof of the pudding's in the eating. Let's check if it fits. Well, that dropped on there nicely. Now I'm not going to pretend it was perfect. I did open the 3 holes up to 5.3 just to give a little bit more wiggle room. But what I found was that the holes in this plate underneath, the circular plate, they're offset slightly. The tapped holes are offset slightly in relation to the dowel. So if I put it the one way round, they line up quite nicely, and the other way round they didn't. So to try and get it a bit more universal, so I'm going to have that plate the same way around all the time. I just open these holes up to 5.3, and then, yeah, they basically, well, as you can see, they drop straight into the holes, no problem. Now, these particular screws I got, a couple of stainless screws. These ones here, well, I don't know what length they are, they're 20 something mil perhaps. They're a little bit long, because when I wind these down, they bottom out there, and as you can see, they're stuck up about 3 mil above the surface. I probably need to take 5 mil off that. And this one, I can feel underneath, it sticks through the bottom probably about 5 mil, and I think, although I'm not positive, but I think when I wind back, there's a likelihood that it could foul on my lead screw. So, yeah, I'm going to cut 5 mil off all of these screws. In fact, I got a bit of dirt in that hole. Need to just run a tap through there again, I think. It does get swarf in it and what have you, but yeah. Now, another little issue, which came up when I made the last one as well, is you've got these oiler holes here. When I got the slide on, obviously you can't access the oiler holes, but what I will do is put a cup, I'll measure out where they are, and this center point here, and I'll have to put a clearance, because these do stick above the surface just a little, especially the lead screw nut, the lead nut here, that does stick above the surface. I don't know if you can, yep. And if I clamp down here and here, it's going to try and distort all this, and it'll make the cross slide stiff. So I will need to put a little clearance hole in for that and these two, just so that I'm not forcing this plate over the top of them, as it were. Again, I measured from the end here and the outside edge, and marked out where the 3 holes were, and I put some little shallow 8mm holes there and a 16 in the middle, just deep enough to put clearance in for those little high spots. And now I've got no rocking. As I had it before, you could feel it rocking on the center point where it was, you know, being held off. But now it's absolutely fine. So I'm just going to cut the 3 screws to length now, and then that'll be the base plate roughed out. It's going to want tidying up and dressing off and what have you, but that'll be the base plate pretty much done. I think we'll knock these corners off and put some chamfers around, things like that. And obviously I'm going to do some finishing on the top and bottom to make sure that there's no high points. While I've got it stripped down at this stage, I've been asked by a subscriber to show how the DRO was fitted on the cross slide. So yeah, on this one, as you can see, there's 2 little cap head bolts in the back here at the bottom, which are on a plate, and they've got some tubes behind them, and they're onto the body of the carriage. And then the pickup sensor is on a couple of little, I think they're M4, M3, I think they're M3 screws. They're all M3s, yeah, which holds the little pickup, because this is the magnetic scale type, not the optical glass type, the little pickup onto a little adjustable slide. Now the magnet strip, let me just go up a little tiny bit, is basically an L-shaped piece of steel, and you can see the L dropping down the back there, and it's got 3 screws along its length. So if I come out, you might be able to pick up the 3, it might be 4, I can't remember now. Yeah, there's 1 up on this end. Yeah, I think it's 4 screws. There's 1 on either end, and there's 2 in the middle. So 1, 2, 3, yeah, there's 4 screws, again M3s, holding this onto the side of the cross slide. So obviously there's some tapped holes in the side of the cross slide which hold on the angle iron, or angle iron, we'll call it the angle plate, which has got the magnetic strip, like a double-sided magnetic strip. It's got tape on it that holds it on the underside, and then the pickup simply pushes in, you know, just to an almost touch on the little slides it's got here. So yeah, I hope that helps out the chap. I can't remember off the top of my head, I just happened to be in the workshop, but I hope that helps out in explaining how that's been fitted. Now this top here, I've done various modifications to it and what have you, you know, taking the corner off. It does interfere with the winding handle on the compound slide, but yeah, it stops it being able to travel the full way forward, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, I mean, I could move all this outboard because I've got all this room out the back here to get rid of that problem. But to be honest, it's not very often that I'm using the full travel of the compound. So yeah, it hasn't bothered me that much. So anyway, I thought I'd share that with you all. So back to the job in hand. I've now got my plate. I've just, you know, it's nice and smooth now. I've stoned it over, well, I draw filed it over, stoned it, I've polished it, just put some chamfers around all the edges, that sort of thing. It's got, I could tell when I was draw filing it, it's got a slight hollow in the middle. Oh, to have a surface grinder, eh? I probably will spend a bit more time on it off camera. You don't want to watch me draw filing for an hour. Just getting that surface nice and flat, taking out the hollow in the middle. I bet it's no more than a couple of thou, but you can imagine having to draw file over that sort of area is going to take a bit of doing. I didn't mention the overall width of this plate is, well, it's 3-inch plate, 3-inch wide, and looks longer than my caliper. Where are we? Where's the rule gone? Ah, you can never find a rule when you want one. Where have you hidden that, Adrian? Okay, I've closed my curtain and it's on a screw behind the curtain. It shares the same screw. Right, okay. And its overall length of that piece I've got on there is 7¼ inches, or about 185 mil. So yeah, I've got 75 by 185. That's you know, the basic plate that I've started with. Oh, and it was 1/2-inch plate. Okay. We seem to get imperial sizes in steel stock a lot easier. I think I bought a foot of this stuff and it was 3-inch by a foot by 1/2 inch. And it was something like EN3B. It was, you know, it's a mild steel. It's nothing special. Anyway, now that I got these 3 screws cut and they all sit in nicely, they are an odd length, these screws. I mean, these are just the right length so that they, you know, they're about 3 mil off bottoming out when they're down tight, and that one is exactly the right length so it doesn't stick through underneath the carriage. Let me just make sure you can see me. Yes, you can. Right, okay. It doesn't stick through underneath and interfere with my lead screw at all. So what I'm going to do, very much the same as I did on the previous plate, is I'm just going to drill and tap 3 M6 holes in the side of here, out of the way, so it's not going to cause a problem. 3 little M6 tapped holes, M5 tapped holes in the side of here, so that when I'm not using this plate I can just put the 3 screws into the tapped holes and they're kept with the plate and I don't lose them. I do like to do that because otherwise I'll spend half my life hacksawing screws to length, and I've done that once. So yeah, a little keep holes just to put the fixtures, you know, the little bits and pieces to keep them safe. So I've just drilled some little, I kept saying M6 there, M5, just drilled some 4.3 mil holes in the side here, on the centre line, and they're 10 mil apart, and I'm just tapping them with the M5, just as a little storage points for the 3 screws when the jig's not in use. Well, there we are, you get the idea. When they're not in use, they're going to live by there, and they won't get lost. Well, there we are, guys. I think that's about it for part 1. We've got the base plate done. So in part 2, we're going to be turning up the aluminium bearing holder, shall we call it? You know, the bearing holder with its shoulder, and perhaps bolting it onto the base plate as well, and doing the bearing fit, that sort of thing. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and don't forget to hit that like button. Cheers now.